Okay, so let's flash OBS, make sure I can be heard. Yep. So this is a quick video I'm making about Warhammer, the Old World. So just for some background, around 5th edition 40k, I disliked the way that the game played, and a friend got me into Warhammer Fantasy Battles, 7th edition. I loved 7th edition. It was a lot of fun. It was my first rank and file game. I almost got into Warhammer in 6th edition, but I was in high school, didn't have very much money, and none of my friends were interested in playing, so never got into it. Well, so in 7th edition, I played Warriors of Chaos, and I played the game a lot, and I really enjoyed it. I did my best to avoid the things I didn't think I liked, which was Lord choices being too powerful, so I played at a point level where you didn't play with Lords. And then I brought usually 3 Dispel Scrolls to try and keep the real bad magic shut down. And I enjoyed the game immensely. So, before I get into the old world, I have been playing Warhammer 7th Edition with Jen again, and I've streamed a couple of games. One, the audio was broken, and two, like the second game I streamed, I think the last 2 hours we were talking about dystopian wars for whatever reason. So I decided to take that one down. But we played about 5 games, and since we're experimenting with the system, I decided, well, let's go ahead and start playing with Lord choices. You know, give it a shot. It's not like one of those, this is my rare weekly game. I don't want to get trampled by a Lord. Let's see what this system's really like. Let's see what this system's really about, because that's how most people played, around 2,000, 3,000 points, from my understanding. I always played, I like to play 1,500 usually. But what I liked about Warhammer Fantasy is a lot of times the units don't do that much damage, and the just I'm standing around combat resolution was very hard to overcome, even with more powerful units. So just because you rolled in, killed models, and they didn't get to strike back, it didn't mean a whole lot, because a lot of times you couldn't beat their standing combat resolution. You'd still lose. You still had to be a little smart about it. Some of the things I really liked about 7th edition, and I think this is still true for older editions as well, is you go first if you charge, and if a model dies before it has a chance to attack, it does not get to strike back. So a lot of times, if you charged a unit, they wouldn't get to swing back unless they were extraordinarily tough. But the unit was hopefully strong enough to just withstand the charge, maybe even beat you on combat resolution, and then bring things into initiative and hopefully get their own back. Made cavalry very devastating. If cavalry hit from a flank or the rear, it would take away a lot of that combat resolution of the unit, and they'd break, run, and potentially just instantly die. Another thing that I liked is if a unit did manage to run, or if it just panicked and started to run, very, very high likelihood that it's going to rally and get back in the fight and still be a relevant unit. I've seen it time and again in Warhammer Fantasy. It was not really a factor for any other war games that I had played. I like the way that panicked worked. You know, you could have the whole rank panic, a bad flank charge, or a bad panic, and running through your ranks could make everybody have to test panic. Just really enjoyed it. It's kind of like For the most part, the units didn't do much damage to each other when they hit each other. But when the real damage came is when one side or the other broke. And that's when whole units would actually die. And it was very impactful. Like I say, I really liked that style of play. And I did not like 8th edition. So here's 8th edition comes in, and everything's strict initiative order. So, I mean, charging in 8th edition was largely a suicidal affair. Unless you beat the opponent in initiative, they were going to strike you pretty hard. And in 8th edition, it didn't matter if the model was killed. If there is a model in position that can attack, they would attack. So, like I said, I just didn't like the game. They made it so you could fight in 3 ranks if you had a frontage of 10. But nobody ever did that. Everybody just did big unit buses because you were stubborn if you had more ranks than other people. So you just had these ridiculous marching columns run around through the battlefield. You think, oh, well, I'll just hit them in the flank with some cav. Well, think about this. So the cavalry, if they hit in the flank, even if they kill 4 or 5 guys, they're still going to have 7 guys swinging back at them. You know, and when you're 1 wound cavalry, it doesn't end well for you. In fact, a lot of times what would happen is the cavalry would just roll in, get itself killed by the guys on the flank, and the unit wasn't disrupted. Not only was it not disrupted, but it got even more combat res. I just felt like the game did not play well. I didn't enjoy it. You didn't see cavalry anymore. You didn't see lord choices because they were almost impossible to take. It's like they completely altered the way the game worked, but they didn't really alter the points. So, for example, Chaos Knights went up in points, and they were worthless. Like I said, if you charged somebody with Chaos Knights, they were just going to die, even if they had a unit in the front. And that was very disappointing to me. And one of the reasons why I don't like a lot of the new Warhammer kind of successors is they all take that style out of 8th. So I was hoping Warhammer the Old World, when it was first introduced, they were like, oh, this is going to be the best version of Warhammer. We're going to take the stuff everybody loved from the previous editions, and we're going to put it into one game. And I was thinking, oh, so it's going to be like a D&D 5th edition, right? I still like 5th edition. I know they're coming out with a new edition, but I think 5th edition held up very well. And it was much more fun to play than 3rd or 4th. I played a lot of 3rd edition and legitimate 3rd edition. I can tell you, I think 5th is more fun. But so let's get on with it. So I was reading, I finally took an interest in the Old World. I said, you know what? I like Warhammer. It's exciting that it's coming back. Let's see what's going on. And unfortunately, I saw some stuff that's really bothering me. So we got this first thing. The rules encourage units with wide frontages, but the ideal number is decided by the player for whatever reason. I don't know what the hell that means, but the wide frontage thing reminds me of 8th edition. Because in 8th edition, if you had a frontage of 10, you got an additional rank was allowed to fight. Okay. And then we've ensured that as many models as possible can fight in combat, giving even those models that are within the fighting rank but not in base contact with the enemy the opportunity to bring their weapons to bear. So I feel like what they're saying is, let's say I have a frontage that's significantly wider than the enemy. Rather than those guys staying in formation, I guess they're going to actually get to attack. So if I have a frontage of 10 and you hit me with a frontage of 4, all 10 of my guys will get to strike. But what that makes me feel like they're going to do also is make it so that everybody gets to fight. That just seems like the way that's sounding to me. I think the most obvious thing is just everybody in the front rank can fight, whether they're in base-to-base contact or not. It's kind of a weird decision to me. I don't like it. Because like I say, I would think these blocks would keep their formation rather than start to envelop the enemy and expose themselves. Not too sure about it, but that would definitely encourage a wide formation. But it also almost feels like they're saying everybody's going to get to fight. So dead models are not going to lose their opportunity to fight. As long as there is a model in a position that can fight, it can fight. I think that's what they're doing. I think it's going to be more like 8th. That doesn't mean chargers won't get to go first, which I think they should. But it does make it sound like, let's say I hit you in the flank with some cavalry and I kill 4 guys, you're still going to hit me back with everything you've got. So that I don't like. I don't know how they could ever balance that. And then something I like even less is... So one thing we were keen for Warhammer the Old World to represent was the push and pull of combat, capturing the way which a hard-pressed army will gradually succumb to fatigue and attrition. To achieve this, units that lose a round of combat will often give ground reluctantly rather than immediately breaking and fleeing, while the winner can advance and press their advantage. So what that says to me is potentially 2 things. First off, it's very obvious that units aren't going to break and die anymore. Couldn't be more clear. What I actually think is going to happen, and I'm very disappointed with this, is I think they're just going to use the system that 40K and Age of Sigmar have, where however much you fail by is how many guys run away. So let's say I take my bravery test and I lose by 4 models will run away. Like, it's just crumbling. Everybody will be undead, basically. That just sounds like crap to me. Because that's one of the things I like, is how decisive and how quick things get. Like, normally in Warhammer Fantasy, what I'm used to is the first couple of turns is a real tense maneuvering game where you're trying to get everything ready, prevent yourself from being charged, but be in position to charge the enemy, or be ready to receive the charges, and then set up some weird flanks and stuff like that, and try to set up for their units to run certain ways. Then you get into contact, and the game tends to be over pretty quickly after that. I like that. What this sounds like is you're just going to march these unwieldy formations forward. They're virtually all going to be undead, right? They're all going to be unbreakable. It's just they're going to crumble a certain amount based on how much they lose by. That sounds like shit to me. Because I guess I'm not sure how we're going to make cavalry matter at all in that kind of a system. And if we look at this picture, I think this is what they mean. Okay, so you've got 10 boar boys here. And you got some funny formations here. It could be that they've just lost people to shooting, or that's just how they decided to do it. We see some trolls and some knights fighting to the front. Looks like a chariot or something hitting the knights as well. But this may be what it's turning into, is just big blocks of mounted cavalry. they're not so much flankers as they are an alternative to these big blocks of infantry. But I have a feeling what's going to happen is these blocks of infantry are just going to run into each other, and they're just going to slowly whittle down, and not a lot decisive is going to happen. You know, here we have these trolls. Just by the way they're out of position, it makes me think that they managed to charge the knights along with the chariot, and, you know, there's 2 dead knights. Now, this is a staged photo. There's no telling that this is the actual what's going on. But one of the other disturbing things is if this is what's happening, there's a troll dead here. You know, so one kind of tells you the trolls and this guy. It's possible that some of these attacks were reduced, but if you think about it, their lances wouldn't get a strength bonus, but they still managed to at least kill 1 troll. So it's like I say, well, I guess it's obvious. The trolls in the wagon only killed 2 knights. So who knows? Right, I'm just kind of rambling. But players will quickly learn, however, that a cunning enemy will use this push and pull of battle units to lay traps, and an advancing unit runs the risk of exposing a vulnerable flank to a well-timed countercharge. I don't really get what they're trying to say here. So I guess maybe what's happening is the push and pull. I'm guessing when you win, you're probably going to push back rather than like bounce off in Kings of War. I'm guessing you're going to push that unit back. And what they're trying to say there is, oh, you know, if you kick the crap out of that unit too much, you might expose your flank because you're going to get put out of the position. I would hate that if that's a mechanic, because you should be able to restrain the unit. Like, these aren't Greeks, right? I mean, like, these aren't 2 phalanxes just trying to have a wrestling match. These are much more modern militaries. Maybe the historical books that they read said that actually that's all they did, was they just got into pushing wrestling matches and just pushed each other until they were exposed and killed themselves. I don't know. But like I say, this whole block, I didn't like the sound of it. It sounds like giant blocks from 8th edition where everybody gets to fight, and it's mainly models killing models that does the damage. And if it uses the initiative system like older 40K and Warhammer Fantasy, where it's just like, that system's always been kind of jacked up, because I watched a few tournaments where Maba Boys, Storm Boys, right, in 40K, pretty decent fighters, charge into some Grey Knights. Literally, the entire unit suicides, because their initiative's lower and the Grey Knights is higher. But we'll see. There's no telling about that. But I don't like the idea of these giant units, I guess, pushing each other all over the battlefield, and it sounds like you don't have control over pushing them. Sounds like crap. And I don't know how vulnerable units are to flank charging. I'm not sure what all it'll do. It'll probably disrupt the units. It'll probably take away their rank bonuses, maybe. But I think you're going to have to rely on real heavy stuff like Demigryph Knights or giant blocks of Knights, and just assume they're going to get their asses handed to them by whoever they flank charge, and just hope you have enough at the end of it to still matter. they're just bringing. This is just telling us that we're getting more modern spell casting, where you can do it in any phase. So I'm not happy with what I'm seeing, and I think I know what's going to happen because I was telling Jen this. The problem with 7th edition is new players and children hate it. You know, like you charge into a flank and kids get mad, like, you know, you kill 4 guys and it's like, why can't I fight back? I can see there's models in contact with you. What do you mean I can't see them? All I have to do is they just have to look to the right. They can see them. Why can't I charge those guys? You know, that kind of stuff, I think, made the game not sell well. And I think when you did a demo and somebody first gets charged and they don't even get to swing back, they don't care that their standing combat res is probably enough for them to win the combat or draw the combat or not lose by very much and stand firm. What they care about is they didn't get to hit back. And the same thing is like, well, let's say that guy charges them and that unit breaks. Well, the whole unit's dead now if they get caught, and they probably will. You know, people just quit games based on that. And line of sight was another one, right? Like I was just saying, you know, you've got some archers, you've got some fast cav that's just out of their line of sight. People get upset about that. They can see. They're right next to them. How can they not see? Why can't they shoot? Well, they can't. It's just how it is. You know, you could turn, you know, but I mean, it usually came in with charges. So, like I said, I'm pretty disappointed with that. I was looking at some of these other articles, but I saw that and I was like, okay, that kind of confirms that this game's probably going to be a game I don't want to play. Then just since I've got a little more time, here's the core factions. So Empire, Orcs and Goblins, Dwarfs, Chaos, which I'm which I'm playing, Bretonnians, Beastmen, Wood Elves, High Elves, and then Tomb Kings. Jen always wanted to play Tomb Kings, so she is very excited. At the very least, we'll be able to get some Tomb King miniatures. The only other fantasy army I have is Dark Elves, and since they're over in North America right now, really Canada, they're not going to be part of the main story. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's fine leaving the Americas out of it. That's going to take out lizard men too, of course. Demons have no place there. I didn't like 7th edition demons. That was a Matt Ward design choice to just make them too powerful. And I didn't like it. So we'll see how things go. But like I say, I think it sounds like it's a big misstep to me. The pushing mechanic that they're alluding to, I really hate the sound of that. I mean, that sounds like friggin' garbage. And then everybody being in the fighting rank being allowed to fight, that also sounds like crap. Think about some high elf spearmen. I could be wrong about this, but they're almost saying like every rank that can fight gets to fight. It's like, holy crap, you know? That really does encourage colossal blocks. I mean, look at these freaking boys back here. Colossal blocks of infantry and stuff like that. And then, I mean, in the real game, you probably aren't going to have your heroes out like this. This is just a staged photo, but what kind of heroes do you have to have that are going to matter with these colossal units? They probably got to be a cut above. Certainly more than the units are now. But like I say, I don't like the sound of it. It sounds like it's not going to be a quick, decisive game. It's not going to be a game about moving, setting things up, and then executing, and then just cleaning up real quick. It's going to be a slow, I think, lumbering. It's going to be fucking vampire counts versus vampire counts is what I think, and nobody gets any blood knights or vampire lords. They just get fucking black knights. That's what I'm predicting for the game. I definitely hope that I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. The only upside is if I am right, it means that we're at least going to get our old miniatures back. Now, if you guys don't know, I'm a huge Age of Sigmar fan. I really like Age of Sigmar. It plays like, honestly, like older versions of 40K when I was a kid, and I still really enjoy it. Third edition I haven't played as much because Blades of Corn was very strong, and Night Hunt and Vampires are not very strong, and Lumineth was not very strong, so Jen hasn't really wanted to play. But what have you. We'll hopefully get some more games in before the edition changes. But like I said, I was really excited about Warhammer Fantasy or Warhammer the Old World. But it really sounds like it's going to be about big, clumsy blocks of infantry, oozing into each other and then just slowly attritioning down. And I don't know what the actual role of cavalry is. At least the photos are implying that cavalry is just another type of infantry block to run straight in. But we'll see. I'm going to keep an eye on the game, and I'm certainly going to give it a try, even if all these mechanics are in that I don't like. And in fact, even though I hate 8th edition, I was up in the attic looking for my 8th edition books because I'm planning to play 8th edition with Jen after we get a few more games in of 7th to see if maybe my problems were with 8th were my refusal to learn the system. It's possible that there's a very interesting game there, and I was just being too narrow-minded about how to construct a force or how to use cavalry, and that it could be a compelling game, but I just didn't give it the time of day, or I didn't take enough time to really adapt to the system. But we'll see. I don't know. I think 8th was just a shitty exploitative system. They took out all the stuff that kids and new players hate, and they made a system that encouraged you to like triple the model count of your army. And the game died for it. I think even the people that loved Warhammer stopped playing at that point. But if you sat in with me, we'll see if my predictions are true. Hopefully they're all wrong, and we just get an updated 7th edition with weaker lords and magic, and all the new shiny 8th edition units. Yeah, sure. We'll see that happen. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me, and have a good evening.